The long shadows across the training grounds of the ludus as Marcus Brutus examined the ledger before him. The numbers told a story that every Lannister knew by heart. Each gladiator represented an investment that could range from 2,000 to 50,000 denarii, equivalent to several years' wages for a skilled craftsman. When Titus, one of his most valuable retiarii, began showing signs of fever just hours before the games at the Colosseum, Brutus faced a decision that would reveal the cold mathematics of human entertainment. The gladiatorial system of ancient Rome was not merely about spectacle. It was a carefully orchestrated business machine that generated enormous profits for the Roman elite. Emperor Trajan alone spent over 650 million denarii on games during his reign, while wealthy citizens competed to sponsor increasingly elaborate shows. Behind this glittering facade lay a network of training schools, medical facilities, and financial arrangements that treated human beings as commodities with precise market values. Titus had been purchased 3 years earlier from a dealer in Gaul. His natural agility and skill with the net and trident had made him a crowd favorite, earning victories in 12 consecutive fights. His survival rate, remarkable in a profession where most gladiators died within their first year, had transformed him from a 3,000 denarii investment into an asset worth 10 times that amount. The Lannister had already received advance payments from betting syndicates and wealthy patrons who specifically requested to see Titus fight. The economic web surrounding a single gladiator's illness extended far beyond the walls of the training school. Vendors had prepared food and merchandise for the anticipated crowd, betting houses had established odds based on Titus's fighting record, and political figures had arranged to attend the games as part of their public image campaigns. The Roman entertainment industry had become so sophisticated that a single gladiator's fever could potentially disrupt financial networks that spanned the Mediterranean world. As fever clouded Titus's vision and weakness settled into his limbs, the gladiator understood what his Lannister could not openly acknowledge. In the Roman arena, sickness was not merely a personal misfortune. It was a breach of contract with an empire that had built its identity around the spectacle of human combat. Did you know that a single gladiator could be worth more than a Roman villa? If you're fascinated by the dark economic realities of ancient Rome, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon for more brutal truths from history. And let us know in the comments, what other aspects of gladiatorial economics would you like us to explore? The medicus Gaius Valerius had seen this scenario countless times during his 15 years serving the gladiatorial schools of Rome. As he examined Titus in the dim light of the infirmary, his trained eye assessed not just the gladiator's condition, but the economic implications of every symptom. The fever, the weakness, the slight tremor in the hands, all were catalogued not merely as medical concerns, but as threats to a carefully balanced financial ecosystem. Roman medicine, particularly as applied to gladiators, operated on principles that would seem barbaric to modern eyes, yet were sophisticated within their own context. The Medici who served the ludi were often Greek slaves or freedmen, trained in the medical traditions of Hippocrates and Galen, but forced to adapt their healing arts to the demands of the arena. They maintained detailed records of injuries, treatments, and recovery times, not out of humanitarian concern, but because accurate medical data was essential for calculating the return on investment for each fighter. The infirmary where Titus lay was a testament to the Romans' practical approach to gladiator maintenance. Surgical instruments lined the walls, bronze scalpels, bone saws, and cauterizing irons that had been used to repair countless wounds. The Romans had developed remarkably advanced techniques for treating traumatic injuries, driven by the necessity of keeping their human investments functional. They understood anatomy better than most civilizations because they had so many opportunities to observe the human body under extreme stress. Titus's symptoms suggested a common ailment of the time, what modern medicine would recognize as influenza, possibly complicated by the stress and malnutrition that even well-treated gladiators endured. In the Ludus, fighters received better medical care than most Roman citizens, not from compassion, but from economic necessity. A gladiator's body was a precision instrument, maintained like a chariot or a siege engine, with every muscle, bone, and organ monitored for optimal performance. The medicus understood that his role extended beyond healing. He was part therapist, part veterinarian, part accountant, responsible for maintaining the psychological and physical condition of Rome's most valuable human assets. The gladiators trusted him because he was often the only person in their world who treated them as individuals rather than commodities. Yet he remained trapped within a system that ultimately valued their lives only in terms of their ability to generate profit and entertainment. The medical practices of ancient Rome were both more advanced and more brutal than most people realize. If you're learning something new about the intersection of medicine and entertainment in the ancient world, give this video a thumbs up and share it with someone who loves history. What other aspects of Roman medical practice would you like us to investigate? The medicus Valerius faced a decision that crystallized the fundamental contradiction at the heart of the gladiatorial system. His medical training told him that Titus needed rest, fluids, and time to recover from what appeared to be a severe respiratory infection. The economic pressures of the Roman entertainment industry demanded that he find a way to make the gladiator fight-ready within hours, regardless of the long-term consequences to his health. Roman physicians had developed a sophisticated understanding of pharmacology, particularly substances that could mask pain and enhance performance. The medicus had access to opium from the eastern provinces, which could dull pain and create a sense of euphoria. Willow bark extract could reduce fever, while various stimulants derived from plants could provide temporary energy. The challenge was creating a cocktail that would allow Titus to function in the arena without killing him outright, a calculation that revealed the empire's cold pragmatism about human life. The decision-making process involved multiple stakeholders, each with their own interests and calculations. The lanista Marcus Brutus had already spent considerable sums promoting the day's matches, and cancelling Titus's fight would mean refunding money to wealthy patrons and disappointing betting syndicates. The arena's editor, the official responsible for organizing the games, had promised the crowd a specific program of entertainment, and failing to deliver could damage his political reputation. Even the emperor's representatives had a stake in the decision. The gladiatorial games were not merely entertainment, they were a form of social control, a way of channeling the potentially dangerous energies of Rome's urban masses into controlled spectacle. The Roman government understood that bread and circuses were essential for maintaining political stability, and any disruption to the regular schedule of games could have broader implications for public order. The medicus prepared his pharmaceutical intervention with the methodical precision of a military engineer. He mixed wine with honey to mask the bitter taste of the medicinal compounds, added ground herbs that would provide temporary energy, and included substances that would suppress the cough that had begun to rack Titus's body. The resulting mixture was essentially a chemical disguise, a way of making a sick man appear healthy long enough to perform his role in the day's entertainment. As he administered the treatment, Valerius understood that he was not healing his patient. He was enabling a system that would consume Titus's life for the entertainment of others. The gladiator's fevered eyes met his own, and in that moment, both men understood the transaction that was taking place. Titus would receive temporary relief from his symptoms, but at the cost of pushing his body far beyond its natural limits. The Romans developed sophisticated pharmaceutical techniques not to heal, but to enable human spectacle. If this glimpse into the dark science of ancient entertainment has shocked you, make sure to subscribe for more content that reveals the brutal realities behind historical spectacles. Leave a comment telling us what other behind-the-scenes aspects of Roman life you'd like us to explore. The decision came at dawn, delivered with the cold precision that characterized all aspects of the gladiatorial business. Titus would fight. The pharmaceutical cocktail had been prepared. The crowd was gathering, and the machinery of Roman entertainment was moving forward with unstoppable momentum. The individual gladiator's welfare had been subordinated to the broader economic and social needs of the empire. As Titus prepared for what would be his final performance, the stimulants coursing through his system created a false sense of vitality. The fever had been suppressed, the weakness temporarily masked, and the pain dulled to a manageable level. But the drugs were not a cure. They were merely a chemical postponement of the inevitable confrontation between human limitations and the empire's demands for entertainment. The Roman crowd that filled the Colosseum understood the unspoken contract that bound them to the spectacle unfolding below. They had not come merely to witness skilled combat. They had come to see human beings pushed to the absolute limits of endurance, courage, and mortality. The possibility that a gladiator might be fighting while ill added another layer of dramatic tension to the proceedings, another variable in the complex equation of life and death that made the games so compelling. The fight began with Titus appearing to move with something approaching his usual grace. His net flew with practiced precision, and his trident found its mark with deadly accuracy. The crowd roared its approval, unaware that they were witnessing not just a combat, but a pharmaceutical performance, a dying man's chemically enhanced final act. The medicus watched from the sidelines, monitoring his patient's condition with the clinical detachment of a military surgeon. But the human body, even when chemically enhanced, has limits that cannot be indefinitely postponed. As the fight progressed, the fever began to break through the artificial barriers that medicine had erected. Titus's reaction slowed, his coordination faltered, and his opponent, a skilled secutor named Lucius, began to press his advantage. The crowd, sensing the shift in momentum, began to bay for blood with renewed intensity. The end came not with the dramatic flourish that characterized most gladiatorial contests, but with the slow, inevitable collapse of a system pushed beyond its breaking point. Titus fell not to his opponent's blade, but to the combined effects of illness, exhaustion, and the chemical cocktail that had been forced into his body. The crowd, initially disappointed by the anticlimactic conclusion, soon began to cheer as they realized they had witnessed something even more rare than skilled combat. They had seen a gladiator literally die for their entertainment. The Lannister Marcus Brutus, watching from the privileged seating area, began his calculations even before Titus's body had been removed from the sand. The gladiator's death meant a total loss of investment, 50,000 denarii that would never be recovered. But it also meant that the spectacle had been preserved, the crowd satisfied, and the broader economic system maintained. In the cold mathematics of the Roman arena, this was considered an acceptable trade-off. The story of Titus reveals the fundamental brutality of the gladiatorial system. It was a machine that consumed human lives not in spite of its economic calculations, but because of them. The Roman crowd that cheered his death was not particularly cruel by the standards of their time. They were simply participating in a system that had been designed to transform human suffering into entertainment and individual tragedy into collective profit. The gladiatorial games reveal how an entire civilization could systematically transform human suffering into entertainment. If this deep dive into the dark economics of ancient Rome has changed how you think about history, make sure to subscribe for more content that uncovers the brutal realities behind historical spectacles. Leave a comment telling us what other behind-the-scenes aspects of Roman life you'd like us to explore, And don't forget to hit that like button if you learned something new today.